Clive for his worship of the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. I just need to do some brief notes rather than the page and a half notes we used to have under COVID. So first of all, could I please ask you to ensure that any mobile devices or mobile phones are switched off? Can I ask you to make sure that if your nameplate is there, that we have your name facing this way? Good evening, everyone. If you are participating via Teams, when you are not speaking or being asked to speak, please mute your microphones. If you do not mute your microphone, it will be muted for you. To assist people viewing the meeting, could everyone participating via Teams turn off their cameras and only turn them on when speaking, and also introduce themselves whenever they speak? To ensure, do we have any people on Teams? Okay, so I can skip that one. Please note that the meeting is currently being webcast live. Please note that, that to avoid the chat function on Microsoft Teams being used inappropriately has been disabled for this meeting. May I remind everyone that I intend to adhere strictly to the timings set out in the Constitution, as I have done over the last 12 months. So first of all, I would like to welcome to those new members in the chamber, including two members who have come back to the chamber, and they are David Cornish in Chelmsford South. Would you like to stand up? Thank you. Andy Croy, Bullmarsh and Whitegates. David Davies, working without.
He's on a train.
Peter Harper, Finchampstead North. Chris Johnson, Chinfield South. Alistair Neal, Hillside. Welcome back, Beth, Rowland. You don't need to stand if you don't. And another husband and wife partnership, Mike Smith. And welcome to you all. I hope you enjoy your terms. So I now call on Councillor John Halsall. He's asked to make a short statement. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. We are the healthiest, the finest council in the land on many counts, the healthiest, most prosperous, and one of the most desirable places to live, with the lowest level of deprivation. We have not cut services, rather we are opening leisure centres and community centres and libraries. We unusually collect bins every week. Our financial management and prudence are rated by SIPFA as amongst the best, despite having the lowest level of government funding. It is the result of 20 years of good Conservative administration. I'm very proud to have been at the helm these last 3 years to steer the borough through the extremely challenging waters of COVID, the Ukraine and restructuring. I have never forgotten that we are only here to serve our residents. I brought all our partners into the orbit of the council, making it the golden thread which runs through the borough, the indispensable partner. I wanted our officers to be proud to work here and for this to be a place to work of choice, to be confident, to innovate and make decisions. I have never criticised officers and never will. I was the first leader to declare a climate emergency. I was the first to forbid discharge from hospitals into care homes against government dicta. I successfully led the national campaign against the government's planning reforms and proposed huge increase in housing numbers for Woking. Every field, tree and blade of grass lost is deeply painful to me. I'm delighted that planning reforms have now been officially abandoned, but it's still necessary to substantially lower housing numbers in the borough, giving control for development from developers to local authorities and residents. I have created the platform for job creation and prosperity for many decades to come. I was able to achieve a lot in a short period of time because of the wholehearted support of our professional team of officers and directors, who are second to none. They espouse the can-do, innovative behaviour that I wanted, and in making mistakes, learning from them without fear of censure. We have done some remarkable things. I've been very proud to be at the head of such a brilliant organisation, and well done to all. Working with Susan Parsonage, John Kaiser and Graham Eathers has been fun, stimulating, creative and very effective. We are truly blessed to have had them. I wish them all well, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart. We face difficult times ahead. The adverse winds are gale force and increasing, but happily less severe than those we've just endured. A very desirable place means that not a square inch of the borough is not without an option. If the borough does not have a current and approved local plan with a 5-year land supply, speculative development will be ripe. It has currently neither. All development to date has taken place under the core strategy authored by Gary. The exclusion of Woking in the ICS, changes to MRP, pressure on school places, the DSG deficit, devolution, the Ukrainian and other refugees, et al., are huge challenges. Financially, council tax increase 1.99%, inflation 9%, with hardship and poverty increasing, and COVID and Ukraine costs. But the budgets must still be balanced. There are many councils facing financial difficulties. A council which is bust is no good to anyone. I would have relished being at the helm to navigate the borough through these unfavourable waters, and believe that we would have come safely to dry land without harm. However, the good residents of Woking have spoken and have voted for change. It happened on my watch, therefore I am responsible. I have resigned as leader of the Conservative group and of the council, and John has done so as deputy leader. I thank all those who voted Conservative and supported me. It has been the honour of and privilege of my life, but is now for others. The council is in the hands of the coalition. You inherit a pristine Rolls-Royce firing on all cylinders with barely a scratch. Please treat it with respect. Do not crash it as in the past. Lib Dems must deliver on all the promises you have made, which are numerous. You must become liberal and democratic, traits which presently seem absent. Our independents are now independent in name only, having taken the Lib Dem whip, a path which is sadly seemed only too inevitable. Labour have abandoned Labour principles to become the driving force of the coalition. A vote for the Lib Dems is to get Labour both nationally and locally. I shall watch with interest how the future unfolds from the relative calm of the backbenchers, and hope and pray that Woking Borough succeeds and does very well in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the time, and thank you for indulgence.
Thank you, Councillor Holsall. In light of the announcement that Councillor Holsall has resigned as town leader, as borough leader, I have been advised by Democratic Services that a future item in the agenda, a vote of no confidence, is no longer valid because there isn't a administration until after we re-elect. So whoever's in this chair will need to remember that and just skip over it. So It's my time now. I'll try not to bore you. Well, maybe a little. So, go back 12 months ago, when you very graciously elected me as your mayor. I made an acceptance speech, and I specifically said, and I quote, "I would like to enter into an informal contract between all councillors and myself. I will pledge to be even-handed to all parties and councillors, and in return, I expect all councillors, regardless of any affiliation, to behave in an appropriate manner," unquote. I think sitting here 12 months afterwards, I believe both sides have honoured that contract completely, to which I say a very great thank you. Now, as I said, it's the end of my mayoral year, so I have a few thanks to give. So initially, I want to send a sincere thank you to all the organisations who have invited me to their amazing events. I'm not going to list them. And to the fantastic people I have personally met on my journey. From the public unveiling of the magnificent horse sculptures in the Arborfield Garrison, which was my very first event, through to attending the Ukrainian Vigil in Reading Town Centre, and simply visiting a stall outside a house where a young girl was selling cakes she had made to raise money for Ukraine. We even managed to have a virtual schools carol concert due to the COVID restrictions, a first. And I think it went down very, very well. I know the children thoroughly enjoyed it. During this year, I've attended nearly 100 face-to-face events and listened to some amazing choirs, watched some great talent at a secondary school, attended several formal civic functions, such as the swearing in of the new High Sheriff or the opening of the judicial year. Even attended a 100th birthday party and many more. I even actually attended an event on the day of the election, which I'm quite proud of doing. So the year culminated recently in a volunteers thank you event, and I specifically dedicated it to those who have gone that extra mile in helping neighbours and the wider community for COVID. And we had well over 100 attendees for tea and cakes. But as with everything, things do not always go as smooth as we want. My most bizarre experience was getting a parking ticket for parking in the mayor's space. And true to form, I had to go to appeal to get it overturned. So whoever takes this role, you are not a special person. My chosen charity, Chance to Dance, dedicated to providing opportunity for disabled children to sing and dance, have been brilliant. A really small charity, but they have risen to the challenge of being in the spotlight with some fantastic events. The Mayor's Charity Ball, the first for several years, had 200 guests enjoying a great meal and some fantastic entertainment. We raised a grand total of £7,000 for them. And I'd like to put on record publicly a thank you to all the companies of individuals who donated prizes, and the guests who gave so generously through the auctions and raffles, usually alcohol fueled, which worked very well. So finally, can I say a really big thank you to the residents of the borough. They make this borough what it is, and I have been extremely privileged to serve them as your first citizen throughout this last year. In my long political career, this last year has without doubt been my most memorable one, and I will always look back on it with fond memories. So I do believe one or two of you wish to make a statement. You can put your hands up if you wish at this moment in time. Right. Okay, I'll call on Councillor James Jones.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. and thank you for allowing me to say a few words this evening. You're about to come to the end of your year of office, and I and the Lib Dem councillors hope that you have enjoyed your year. From where I'm standing, you certainly seem to have. I had wondered what sort of mayor you might be, because you have a certain reputation in political circles. You have enjoyed the cut and thrust of debate in your previous roles on the council, and no one would deny that you had a certain style with strong opinions and forcefulness. Would you end up being the same as some of the other mayors before you? Some have been good mayors like John Kaiser, but sadly some, in my view, showed poor judgment when chairing the council's meeting, with very little, if any, impartiality. As it turns out, there was absolutely no need to worry about what sort of mayor you might be. You have shown throughout the year a level of impartiality that to me has been far above and superior to any previous mayor. You have treated all sides of the chamber the same way. There's been no favouritism at all. Not for the opposition, and certainly not for your own group. You have stuck closely to the rules laid down in the Constitution. You should be commended for the way that you have behaved yourself as mayor and for the way that you have conducted our meetings. You have handled the responsibilities of mayor exceptionally well. And it's been really nice to see that you are thoroughly enjoying yourself as mayor. Politics is a serious business, but at times we should be able to enjoy ourselves. Although I'm sure that we will always differ politically, there is no doubt in my mind, at least, that you have been one of the best, if not the best, mayor that this council has had, whilst I have had the pleasure of watching proceedings in this chamber these past 10 years or so. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I hope that the new Keith Baker can return to this part of the council.
Wow. Do you know what? He read it exactly as I wrote it. I'll call on Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of the independent group, I would like to say thank you. Oh, well, the independent, well, if they want to be difficult, let them be difficult, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of the two independent councillors in this chamber, I would like to thank you for an excellent year as mayor. We both considered you one of the best we've ever had to deal with, and I've dealt with you before in other matters, but I consider you in this role to be impartial, fair, honest, and be above reproach. The leader of the Liberal Democrats did say that it was a tight match between you and Councillor John Kaiser. I would go along with that. If I was comparing it to Liverpool and Man City, you'd be Man City. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Jorgensen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'm going to start this council meeting with a first. I'm going to agree with Clive completely. I think you have been an excellent mayor. You've been firm and fair. You've cut all of us off before we finished our speeches. And I think you've been very, very even-handed. I know that some people on the opposition benches thought you wouldn't be when you were elected, but you've proved to be extremely good as a mayor. You've also absolutely dedicated to work in borough. You've lived for 30 years in Reading Road in Woodley. You've been a borough councillor for 16 years. You've been very, very active communicating and very active as a champion of Woodley residents. You're also a governor of Addington School and a very, very passionate about helping those less fortunate than ourselves. And I think you have embodied all that we require of a mayor, which is you've worked extremely hard, and I would like to thank you very much for all your efforts.
Thank you, Councillor Jorgensen. Councillor Burgess.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to echo others' comments. You have been an excellent chair of these meetings. And on behalf of the Labour group, which contrary to opinion over there does still exist, I wanted to say thank you for your excellent chairing of the meetings and for your service as mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Murray.
Mr. Mayor, as the councillor that you have cut off most often in council meetings over the last year, I've bought the remainder of my answers, and I just thought I would take that. A few months ago, I invited you to an event. I won't tell everybody what it was, but it was a very personal one to me, and I know that you moved heaven and earth to make sure that you could attend it. And I wanted to say a very personal thank you to you for making the time, cutting through the red tape, attending that event on my behalf, and on behalf of the people that I invited you to come to speak to. And I also wanted to say that I have pulled together a list of all of the remaining answers, and I will forward them to you, just so that you've got them. If at some point you ever have any free time, you could sit down and read them. I think there's about 30,000 words left for you to read.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. And I'm embarrassed. I really am. Speechless. And the last time. Right. So, continuing, just saying that when you're mayor, there is significant behind the scenes support. Someone who can do all the administration, who can coordinate diaries, sort out permission to wear the chain outside of the borough. Yes, you have to get the borough, the neighbours borough's mayor's agreement to wear your chain. She's even given me a mild rebuke when the mayor steps out of line. That person is Caroline Kelly, who's been absolutely magnificent in carrying out this role. You talk to my wife, she will tell you trying to deal with me and look after me is a really tough task, but you've done it admirably. So as a mark of my appreciation, I've got to move that. I would like to present you I won't sit down because I'm going to have to get up again. So an important part of the mayoral operation is telling our residents what the mayor has been up to. It also allows some additional publicity for the charity or the church or the choir that you're attending. Filling that role is a relative newcomer to the communications team who has been very patient with me as I put my thoughts into her draft press releases, and they're extensive in nature usually. That person is Sophia Burr, and again, as a mark of appreciation, only another 32 to do. When I became mayor, I promised Councillor Loyes that I would expect him to deputise for me during the year. I wanted to avoid the regular situation that happens year after year after year, where the mayor simply hogs all the limelight and the deputy mayor gets little. Well, Councillor Loyes attended nearly 20 events, including a couple of citizenship ceremonies for me, and several more he actually joined with me at the event. Abdul is a very close friend of mine, and it's been a pleasure having him as part of the team. So you need to go down there. Now to the last one. Now, I've been a councillor since 2006, and I'm a bit of an anorak with respect to a topic which I would guess most people will find incredibly boring. And I'm referring to the Constitution, or standing orders, as they often are known. I almost go to bed reading it because I'm fascinated by it. This year, with little things like the pandemic, resulting in 3 different types of meetings and quite a few individual issues around silent issues in the Constitution. It's silent on matters. Several have cropped up. It's been probably one of the most difficult years for this individual to manage. So I'm lucky. I've had what I call the constitutional guru, and she's been kept very busy advising me on what is the right procedure and what is not. And I think, as I said, it's safe to say this year has probably been the most difficult one that she has had to handle. I'm not sure if that difficulty was a factor in her decision to retire. Possibly not. But this meeting, I'm sure you all may know, is the last one that Anne will officiate over. Now, I'm going to speak very personally to Anne, and she's been a great advisor to me over the years. And I actually think her retirement is going to be a great loss to this council. So, Anne, your mortal words. Nearly finished. So just got a couple of, sorry.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, could I just
You certainly can.
say something for a few seconds? I first came across Anne Hunter just before I was elected to the council, and I met her at several polling stations, and she was so warm and friendly and just the nicest person. And she has continued to be that for the 6 years that I have been on the council. And one of the nicest things that you have from Anne is if you get an email in the morning, it says good morning. If you get one in the afternoon, it's good afternoon. And if you get one in the evening, and we do, certainly these last few days, it's good evening. And that is always just so nice. It's such a refreshing change from a lot of other emails that we get. So I have a bunch of flowers for you.
Councillor Jorgensen.
Thank you very much for your latitude, Mr. Mayor. Just to say on behalf of our group, we've already given Anne a card and things, so thank you very, very much for all the support and all the help and all the advice you've given me, and I think most of the rest of the members over the years. You've been a pleasure to discuss things with, occasionally argue with. I don't know, I'll really miss the fact that you can bounce ideas off you and that you'll always get a sensible, legal, fair and honest opinion. So thank you very much and best wishes for your retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, from the Labour Group, thank you so much, Anne, for all the help. Well, I remember my first day as a councillor, Andy said to me, one of the people you need to get to know is Conway. She's brilliant. So thank you. We all agree that you've just been fantastic and we'll really miss you. So thank you.
Right. So I've just got a couple items to go. A good one. So after this meeting, can I invite you to the boardroom for drinks and nibbles to celebrate the end of my year? Now my very final act. And the reason why I'm doing this is to carry on what I think is the right way of going about things. So I'm going to tender my resignation as mayor with immediate effect. I will hand over the chairing of the meeting to my deputy, Councillor Noyes. And the reason being is my group will be nominating me for mayor. And I think it's totally inappropriate for me to be sitting here overseeing the election of a mayor. So I made the decision that I would do that instead. So I'm going to hand over the chairing to the deputy.
Evening all. Can I please have nomination for the role of mayor? Councillor Clive Jones. Yes, please.
I'm not sure what to call you now, Abdul. Are you Mr. Mayor or Deputy Mayor? But whatever. It gives me the greatest pleasure to nominate Councillor Caroline Smith to be Mayor of the Borough. I've known Caroline for approaching 12, 13 years. She's a local girl who has brought up her children here and is someone who enjoys a very close family life. She went to Reading University studying sociology and has been the manager at a local charity shop in Wokingham Town Centre for many years. She is embedded in our community and knows our community well. As the borough's first citizen, we need someone who has an unblemished character, who is trustworthy, someone who is fair, and someone that the residents of the borough can look to hold the office of mayor with integrity, with dignity, with authority, and with honour. It requires someone who can remain calm when our meetings get a little fractious, and someone who can demonstrate fairness and an appreciation of the council's rules and customs, sticking to them and when necessary, enforcing them without fear or favour. I believe that Caroline has all the necessary qualities to be a fantastic mayor of the borough, and I am proud to propose her nomination. And I hope very much that she will be elected as mayor this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clive. Who's your seconder, please? Stephen Conway. Would you like to speak now?
It's probably not necessary for me to add very much to what Clive's just said, although I think in view of the fact that we now have a clear indication that the Conservative nominee will be Keith, I think it's important for us to say that I think it's already very clear we have the highest respect for you, Keith. But the recent elections, I think, have demonstrated there is a desire for change in the borough, and this is no disrespect for you when we vote for our candidate.
Are there any further nominations? Yes, oh, Pauline.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor or Deputy Mayor or whatever your role is at the moment. I think everybody has heard what great regard Keith has held in throughout the chamber, and the fact that he has been extremely fair and sensible as our mayor. So I would like to propose that we give Keith another term as mayor to provide us with continuity in what is a very difficult time with a very tight council.
Pauline, who's your seconder? Stuart Munro. Would you like to speak now?
Yes, very briefly, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'd second exactly what and agree entirely with what Pauline said. Keith's a very good sort of hand at the tiller. I think it's going to be an interesting time with all the pressures we've got around us, and it's good to see another Devonian putting himself forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I will now hand over to the Chief Executive, who will be carrying out the vote.
Thank you. So in terms of the procedure tonight, we have two nominations, Keith Baker and Caroline Smith. What will happen is I will read each councillor's name in turn in alphabetical order, and you need to state which nominee you support, whether that's Keith Baker or Caroline Smith. And please say the name in full as well, please. So if I start with Sam Akhtar.
Keith Baker.
Keith Baker.
Keith Baker.
Harry Bath.
Keith Baker.
Rachel Bishop-Firth.
Caroline Smith.
Laura Blumenthal.
Keith Baker.
Chris Bowring.
Keith Baker.
Shirley Boyt.
Caroline Smith.
Prue Bray.
Caroline Smith.
Rachel Burgess.
Caroline Smith.
Anne Chadwick.
Keith Baker.
Stephen Conway.
Caroline Smith.
David Cornish.
Caroline Smith.
Gary Cowan.
Caroline Smith.
Andy Croy.
Caroline Smith.
Phil Cunnington.
Keith Baker.
David Davis.
Keith Baker.
Peter Dennis.
Caroline Smith.
Lindsay Ferris.
Caroline Smith.
Michael Firmager.
Keith Baker.
Paul Fishwick.
Caroline Smith.
Jim Fruin.
Caroline Smith.
Maria G.
Caroline Smith.
John Holsall.
Keith Baker.
David Hare.
Caroline Smith.
Peter Harper.
Keith Baker.
Pauline Hallier-Simons.
Keith Baker.
Graham Howe.
Keith Baker.
Chris Johnson.
Caroline Smith.
Clive Jones.
Caroline Smith.
Norman Jorgensen.
Keith Baker.
Pauline Jorgensen.
Keith Baker.
John Kaiser.
Keith Baker.
Sarah Kerr.
Caroline Smith.
Abdul Loys.
Keith Baker.
Tahia Maher.
Caroline Smith.
Morag Malvern.
Caroline Smith.
Charles Magetz.
Keith Baker.
Rebecca Magetz.
Keith Baker.
Adrian Mather.
Caroline Smith.
Andrew Mickleby.
Caroline Smith.
Stuart Monroe.
Keith Baker.
Gregor Murray.
Keith Baker.
Alistair Neal.
Caroline Smith.
Jackie Rance.
Keith Baker.
Beth Rowland.
Caroline Smith.
Ian Shenton.
Caroline Smith.
Imogen Shepherd-Debay.
Caroline Smith.
Rochelle Shepherd-Debay,
Carolyn Smith.
Caroline Smith,
Caroline Smith.
Mike Smith,
Caroline Smith.
Wayne Smith,
Keith Baker.
Bill Soane,
Keith Baker.
Alison Swaddle,
Keith Baker.
Shahid Yunus.
Keith Baker.
You can give me a moment and I'll confer. Thank you. So following the nominations, I can announce that Caroline Smith will be elected as Mayor of Wokingham Borough Council for the 2022-23 municipal year.
I would like to invite Caroline Smith to come forward to the dais, please.
Council, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. Thank you. There, put the name there. Okay. In capitals? Okay. Good evening. I would like to thank you for electing me to be your mayor, and as the first citizen to be representing the council and the citizens of Wokingham Borough for the coming year, it is both very humbling and an awesome task that I will discharge to the very best of my ability. It is a huge honour, so thank you for your confidence. I would like to begin with another thank you to our outgoing mayor. Keith Baker has done a brilliant job during his year in office. And I don't just mean chairing these meetings with just the right amounts of discipline and fairness. He has also done a great job representing this council at many, many functions. I intend to follow carefully in his footsteps, especially continuing his working principles during our full council meetings. This means I'll ensure to keep to strict timing for all councillors and importantly, keeping everyone to the point. This is a new start for us, and because everything is so finely balanced, I'll be looking to work more collaboratively. We must ensure that the great work by our officers is appreciated, and I truly recognise that our residents come first. As you probably know, as an early town council, I chair the Climate Emergency Working Group, and I'm acutely aware that this council climate emergency targets for 2030 are fast approaching. As such, in my role as mayor, when opportunity arises, I will be encouraging residents to make positive changes. On a different note, since early 2020, we've had to deal with COVID. I have worked for 20 years in the voluntary sector and know firsthand that we have amazing residents in Wokingham, with many stepping forward to volunteer, keeping the vulnerable safe and fed. COVID has not gone away. So as a mayor, I will be promoting the voluntary effort going forward. Whilst we are regarded as affluent in the borough, there are many residents who will be worried about inflation, their rising costs of living and horrendous situation in the Ukraine, and will need support by many sectors of our great community. One of my most pleasurable parts of being a mayor is choosing a charity to support. And with that in mind, said about supporting mine, my obvious choice of charity is the Wokingham Food Bank. And I will be counting on all of you for your generous support of this very worthy cause, local cause. And I have a few more tasks to do. Okay. And I also just like to start with formally thanking Keith Baker as the outgoing mayor. And I'd like to present him with his past chair's badge. So I need to thank them. Okay, and also it goes without saying that behind every great man is a great woman. So I'd also like to thank Mrs. Baker too for her support to Keith as outgoing mayoress, but unfortunately she's not able to be with us tonight. Very nice. And also I have to make another arrangement that I do need a consort. I've had a difficult choice, but I think I will go for Mike Smith. Who'd like to, I think, if you'd like to come up and. Now we go on to the deputy mayor. And now I'd like to announce the nominations for deputy mayor. Have I got any nominations? Proposal? Clive Jones. Have we got a seconder? Dean Conway. Do I have another proposer for deputy mayor? Oh, sorry. Sorry, who are you gonna?
My nomination is Beth Rowland.
Do you want to wish to make a speech?
I'd be delighted to. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Can I be the first to congratulate you on being Mayor of the Borough? I'm delighted for you, truly delighted for you. You'll be a wonderful Mayor. I would like to nominate as your Deputy, Councillor Beth Rowland. Beth is a native of Cheshire. She's lived in Woodley for nearly 50 years. She has 4 children, all who have been educated at Woodley schools. She served her community in Woodley as a town councillor for over 25 years, being Mayor of Woodley in 2000. She's been a district or borough councillor for over 22 years. Like many residents in our borough, she worked for the Prudential Insurance Company. And when she retired, she began work and volunteering for the Berkshire Credit Union. Beth will be a great support for you, Caroline. You and Beth will be great ambassadors for the borough. It gives me great pleasure to nominate Councillor Beth Rowland as your Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First time I've said that, and I'm sure it won't be my last. But thank you very much for this opportunity. Just to say a few words about Beth. Many of you know Beth has been a councillor here before. She's returning to the council after a short break. I campaigned for her in the South Lake ward that she now represents, and I can testify personally to the enormous affection with which she's held by residents in that ward. She's seen as a community-minded person who's very focused on helping people. And she's going to bring on all those qualities to the role of Deputy Mayor. And I support her nomination very warmly.
Do we have any further nominations? So I can't see any show of hands. So do we need to go through them? Thank you. We've duly elected Beth Rowland as our Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
I, Beth Rowland, having been duly elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of Wokingham Borough Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I can't see and smile. I'd like to thank all of you for supporting me as Mayor. I haven't been in this chamber for 4 years, but I was first in it in 1996, and shortly after that, we had a very similar situation today. And out of a few people in this room, I was one of those. I care very much about my community. It takes most of my time, but I don't like housework. So it's a really good excuse not to do housework. I'm passionate about education, and I'm passionate about all sorts of things, which I'm sure we'll discover as we go through the next year. But thank you all of you for putting your trust in me to be the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. We're now moving on to the minutes. And can I ask for members' agreement to the minutes of the last meeting? Show of hands, please. Okay. Last. Okay. And Moving on to apologies. Do we have any apologies for absence? No, no apologies. Is there any declarations of interest? No. That's good. We're now moving on to public question time, which is allowed 30 minutes. I need to remind the executive members their responses should be 2 minutes and supplementary questions no longer than 1 minute. And do we have Joe Bills online? Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. Would you like to ask your question?
Thank you. My question is on child safety outside Maiden Early and the Aldrington schools on the Silverdale Road and surrounding roads. Last week, there was an accident between a 13-year-old child and a car on the Silverdale Road. The child was taken to the Royal Berkshire Hospital due to their injuries. A couple of years ago, 2 primary school children were pinned against the wall by a car with severe injuries which required an air ambulance. Child safety in this area needs urgent attention before a fatality occurs. Each school day or at school drop-off and pick-up times, the roads around the school area become very clogged with cars. Parents drive onto pavements as well as block pavements to get into the Tesco car park to drop off and pick up their children. So children have to walk on the main road to get to school. The parents don't care of the impact on the surrounding pedestrians as long as they can get as close to the school as possible. We need to reduce the number of cars in this area around the schools. Can we install parking restrictions on the Sevenoaks roads and barriers along certain stretches of the Silverdale and Sevenoaks roads to protect the pedestrians?
Thank you very much, Caroline. And may I be the second person to congratulate you on your election as mayor, and also congratulate Beth as well. Thank you for your question, Joe. I completely agree with you about the issues around Silverdale Road and the school there. I cycled up there about 6 months ago to go and talk to the headmaster about it, to try and work out some form of design where we could improve the school accesses. The issues we've got are that area is very constrained, and not all of the roads are in the control of the Borough Council. Some of them are private. We talked about all sorts of things, and I've had officers look at the layout of the land in front of the caretaker's bungalow and the land at the back of Aldrington to see if there's anything can be done. So far, it's proving really, really difficult because of the layout and the very narrow entrance, but we are trying. And therefore, I'd like to reassure you that we do understand the concerns of parents and residents with the traffic and road safety issues. We're also working in partnership with the school to prepare travel plans to discourage unnecessary vehicle use during school days and introduce controls over on-street parking using waiting restrictions where this is possible to support residents. As I said, unfortunately, in this area, we don't have control of all the roads, and that's very difficult. Recently, the residents, in response to requests from residents, the council has extended on-street parking controls in Silverdale Road to deter poor parking behaviour close to the school. Residents may request additional controls at any time via the council's website, which will be fully assessed by officers, and there is a regular cadence of the addition of new parking controls as these proposals are assessed. So please get that request into the website. We are also limited in what we can do about people driving on pavements, and if you've evidence of that, please will you contact the police via 101, and they should do something about it because that's very dangerous, and unfortunately we don't have the ability to intervene on moving traffic offences at the moment.
Excuse me, Councillor Jorgensen, your 2 minutes are up.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do, if that's okay. After the successful prioritising of the pupil safety and the introduction of school streets by Reading Borough Council, is this something that Woking Borough Council would be prepared to investigate for the Maiden Early and Aldrington area?
I obviously can't speak for my successor, whoever that may be, but certainly when the Highways Department was under my control, we were actively assessing school streets. There may be, again, problems because Silverdale Road is also a main road and a main access road, but I can't obviously commit on behalf of my successor.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, and thank you. Okay, I have a question from Jan Hurd.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Would you like to ask your question?
Thank you. Thank you. Just before the election, representatives of main parties were interviewed on BBC Radio Berkshire regarding the proposed development on Hall Farm. Two declared opposition to 4,500 houses on Hall Farm and wanted more information from officers regarding other sites. Another subsequently made a pledge in writing to oppose overdevelopment. Two independents also publicly stated their opposition to Hall Farm. Given the outcome of the election and stated opposition to Hall Farm of representatives of all parties, I asked the executive member of planning the following. In a climate where 97% of new development has been in southern wards and 4,500 doubles numbers of houses required in the period, will this council take Hall Farm out of the local plan update?
Evening, Jan.
Hello.
I didn't actually see the broadcast that you were referring to. I'm sure it was exciting, and I don't feel that I should be asking this question, but the process is the process, so I will. It was interesting reading your question that you refer to the opposition. I don't know because I haven't listened to the broadcast. Refer to other sites. I would say that for the last 6 years, it started with David Lee, and then it moved on to Stuart Monroe. We've had cross-party working groups. All sites have been discussed, so it's not like something that I've kept a secret. It's all been discussed and alternatives have been sought. And if you want clarification on that, I'm sure our lead officers will give you. What I would say is, was that electioneering? I don't know. I would suggest in the future you may come back at a later date and ask the new administration if they will take out Hall Farm. But for now, I will say that we've had a massive response to the local plan compared to when we did it with regards to Graiseley. We're going through those responses, but as I said, please come back and ask the new administration if they would take out Hall Farm. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask a
Yeah, I was going to say, would you like to ask a supplementary?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that, you know, someone that may well be in your place soon. So I'd like to leave my supplementary for people here of all parties to ponder over, really. And that is, you know, I'd be really pleased if you would consider taking Hall Farm off of the local plan update, but also to make sure that relevant policies and voices are given full weight in planning matters. And if I can draw attention in particular to the Arborfield and Barkham Neighbourhood Plan and also Wokingham Borough Council's Landscape Officer. Thank you.
Was that to me or that?
Yes.
Well, as I think that will be up to the new administration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is David Spedding here or is he online? So he'll get a written response. Thank you. The next questioner is Rachel Fielding. Is she here or online? Okay, so that'll be another written response. Thank you. Right. Do we have any petitions to be handed in that we know of? No? Thank you. I have nothing to say on the Mayor's service announcements. Thank you. We're now on to number 9, Returning Officers Report on the Mayor elections to be proposed. I need a proposer. Clive Jones, seconder. Thank you. So now I invite them to, can I invite Clive Jones to propose to move the report? And speak for 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. We were obviously delighted with the local elections this year. I will be speaking about them a little bit later on. So I would just like to propose that we accept the returning officer's report on the elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to speak against the report? Okay. Does the seconder wish to speak? No, we don't. We just go straight to the vote on the report. The voting. Please vote on the report. 4. Thank you. Anybody against? No. Okay. Carried. Thank you. Item number 10, we don't need any more. Can I please ask for nominations for the office of Leader of Council for a 4-year term? Stephen Conway, you're proposing?
Yes, I'd like to propose Clive Jones.
Okay. And Chris Bowring?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. May I, with your permission, under Standing Order 4.2.15.5, request that when we come to it, the vote is recorded. Thank you.
It will be, yes. Margets? Councillor Margets?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and may I also offer my congratulations to your appointment. I'd like to propose Pauline Jorgensen as Leader of the Council.
Oh. What, I missed it? Okay. So what did I do? Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, would you like an opportunity to speak?
I would, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's hard not to see this as an historic moment of change. And it's my great pleasure to nominate Clive Jones as Leader of Council. Clive is a well-respected councillor. As you all know, he's the leader of the Liberal Democrat group on the council. He has the experience, the skills, and the character required to be the leader of the council. He will listen and be inclusive, qualities that are especially important in the situation in which we find ourselves. The outcome of the local elections on the 5th of May was that the council went into no overall control. As no party has a majority of councillors, discussions between political groups were necessary to form a new administration. Both the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats, the two largest groups on the council, have talked to the Labour group and the Independents to see whether they could form a minority administration with their support. The Conservatives have been unable to reach agreement with the other parties, but the Liberal Democrats have succeeded. The Liberal Democrats, Labour and the Independents have agreed to work together for the benefit of our residents in a Wokingham Borough partnership that will enable the council to move forward from this current hardened council situation. The members of the new Wokingham Borough partnership have given Clive their backing. In nominating him, I am therefore confident that he has a broad base of support across the council chamber. He will lead a council in an inclusive and consensual way. He is willing to work with all parties, not just those parties in the partnership. I commend him to the council as the right person for the role.
And would Prue Bray like to speak?
Yes, just briefly, thank you, Madam Mayor, and may I also congratulate you and Beth on her election as well. Stephen has said, I think, the things that need to be said. This is a new era for the council as a result of the local elections. We need an administration that is going to work on behalf of the residents of Wokingham, whoever they voted for, and work collaboratively as a council for the benefit of those residents. And Clive has shown, I think, even since the election, that he can reach out to people in other political parties so that we have made an agreement to work together. That hand will be extended to the Conservatives if they wish to work with us for the benefit of residents. Clive is the right person to do that. He's not determined to take. Oh, so I was going to say something slightly rude there about to take the credit for everything that might go on. He wants to work with people to build a team in the council. And I can't think of anybody better to do it. He's the Liberal Democrat leader. We elected him as our leader. We're proud to have him now proposed as leader of the council.
Do I have any other nominations?
Councillor Pauline Jorgensen.
Is there a seconder? Thank you. Greg Orman. Do you both wish to speak?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Marget.
Thank you. As Councillor Conway commented, basically, the people of Wokingham gave no clear position, basically, to any party to take control, basically, of the council and gave no clear majority. As my colleague Councillor Halsall commented earlier on, the council faces some particularly difficult situation, whoever is in control, over the next 12 months. The local plan still needs to be resolved one way. We've had a public question tonight regarding the situation regarding Hall Farm. And there have also been issues to do with housing, basically, in wards close to Finch Hampstead, where I represent. There's also the issue of the adult social care bill and the big bill that could be coming our way, which needs to be resolved. My view, basically, is I'm proposing Councillor Jorgensen. She's an experienced councillor. She's had many positions of authority on the council, so understands the role. She's also had significant senior management experience elsewhere. She's also been a passionate and driven advocate for the people she represents for a long period of time. I believe that's going to be necessary to actually lead the council forwards from here, which is why she has my support.
Councillor Greg Orman. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Madam Deputy Mayor, congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
I would echo Councillor Marget's nomination of Pauline Jorgensen to be leader of the council. Pauline Jorgensen is probably one of the most public faces of this council, not just in her own ward, but across our borough. And that makes her an open door to every single one of our residents to come to and put forward their concerns, put forward their ideas and suggest ways that we can work together moving forward. She has a huge amount of experience across this council. I think she's sat on pretty much every committee. She's had almost every exec member role that there is. She dedicates a huge amount of time to our community. And I would echo Councillor Marget's and the rest of the Conservative group in nominating Pauline Jorgensen to be leader of the council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So in terms of the next steps, we will the process will be as previously. So we have 2 nominations. That's Clive Jones and Pauline Jorgensen. And what I will do is read each councillor's name in turn in alphabetical order. And if you can say clearly in full the name of the person that you would want to support. So if I start with Sam Akhtar.
Pauline Jorgensen.
Keith Baker.
Pauline Jorgensen.
Parry Bath.
Pauline Jorgensen.
Rachel Bishop-Firth.
Clive Jones.
Laura Blumenthal.
Pauline Jorgensen.
Chris Bowring,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Shirley Boyt,
Clive Jones.
Prue Bray,
Clive Jones.
Rachel Burgess,
Clive Jones.
Anne Chadwick,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Stephen Conway,
Clive Jones.
David Cornish,
Clive Jones.
Gary Cowan,
Clive Jones.
Andy Croy,
Clive Jones.
Phil Cunnington,
Pauline Jorgensen.
David Davis,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Peter Dennis,
Clive Jones.
Lindsay Ferris,
Clive Jones.
Michael Firmager,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Paul Fishwick,
Clive Jones.
Jim Fruin,
Clive Jones.
Maria G,
Clive Jones.
John Halsall,
Pauline Jorgensen.
David Hare,
Clive Jones.
Peter Harper,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Pauline Hellier-Simons,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Graham Howe,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Chris Johnson,
Clive Jones.
Clive Jones,
Clive Jones.
Norman Jorgensen,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Pauline Jorgensen,
Pauline Jorgensen, how very embarrassing.
John Kaiser,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Sarah Kerr,
Clive Jones.
Abdul Loys,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Tahir Maher,
Clive Jones.
Morag Malvern,
Clive Jones.
Charles Baguette,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Rebecca Maguette,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Adrian Mather,
Clive Jones.
Andrew Mickelber,
Clive Jones.
Stuart Monroe,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Gregor Murray,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Alistair Neal,
Clive Jones.
Jackie Rance,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Beth Rowland,
Clive Jones.
Ian Shenton,
Clive Jones.
Imogen Shepherd de Bay,
Clive Jones.
Rochelle Shepherd de Bay,
Clive Jones.
Caroline Smith,
Clive Jones.
Mike Smith,
Clive Jones.
Wayne Smith,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Bill Soame,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Alison Swaddle,
Pauline Jorgensen.
Shahid Yunus.
Pauline Jorgensen.
If you give me a moment, please.
It has we've come to a conclusion that Councillor Clive Jones be elected as leader of Wokingham Borough Council for a 4-year term of office. Would you like to speak?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, it's just gone 8:30. I would like to propose an extension of the meeting after 9 o'clock under Standing Order 4212M, please.
Yeah. Have you got a second, Stephen Conway? Shall we go to a vote? All in favour, show of hands. Thank you. I think that's carried. Thank you very much. The leader can speak for 10 minutes and his execs.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Can I once again congratulate you most sincerely on your appointment as Mayor? Can I also congratulate Beth Rowland on her appointment as your deputy. I hope that you really enjoy your terms of office. I would like to begin by thanking John Horsall, the outgoing leader of the council, and his executive colleagues for all of their work over the last 3 years. I am particularly grateful for John's willingness to bring other political groups into discussions on the council's response to COVID, and to John Kaiser for agreeing to request to share his budget thinking with the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I congratulate Pauline Jorgensen on becoming leader of the Conservative group, and I hope that we will be able to work together in a spirit of cooperation. I would like to thank all of my colleagues, including the members of the Wokingham Borough Partnership, for giving me the honour of being the leader of Wokingham Borough Council. They have placed enormous trust in me, and I will do my very best to serve all of the residents of the borough in a professional, effective and efficient manner. There will be a willingness from myself and my colleagues to consult with others and to call on the skills and experience of councillors of all parties to help us tackle the considerable challenges that the borough faces. Now more than ever is the time for grown-up politics, which puts the interests of residents and businesses above party political point scoring. The challenges of the borough faces are great. The cost of living crisis is hitting individuals, families and businesses here in Wokingham. The government has imposed an unsustainable new housing allocation on the borough, which greatly exceeds local need. A climate emergency requires urgent action, not just to protect us here and now, but for the security of our children and our children's children. Meanwhile, ministers are putting the council's finances under intense pressure, with an enormous bill looming for their social care reforms and new rules that require us to put aside more money to cover the financing of investment assets and capital loans. The cost of living crisis is hitting many families here in Wokingham, but we can and we must help to address its local consequences, including acute hardship for a growing number of residents and rising costs for businesses and the council. We will be placing an emphasis on anti-poverty measures and working closely with local businesses to see what the council can do to help them. I will take the business portfolio, and we have created a new position on the executive, and I am delighted that Rachel Bishop-Burr will be the executive member for equalities, inclusion and fighting poverty. People need affordable and decent homes to live in. We must aim to improve on the council's record for building social housing. Stephen Conway, as well as being the deputy leader of the council, will also be responsible for housing. Although there is a widespread recognition that some new housing is required, especially affordable housing for younger people in our community and for those of all ages who are currently priced out of the market, there is a tremendous hostility, as we saw in the recent local elections, to the government's imposition of a housing allocation that greatly exceeds local needs. Liberal Democrats have petitioned the Secretary of State for Community Housing and Levelling Up to ask for a reduction in the excessively high housing allocation imposed on us by the government. The council had previously tried to get the number reduced, and our executive member for planning and the local plan, Lindsay Ferris, will continue to argue our case for a reduction. If the government accepts that our housing allocation should be reduced, we can reassess the less sustainable sites in the draft local plan. But whatever this Conservative government eventually decides, we do need to address the problem of flood risk. It cannot be right to argue that the development of land that will increase the risk of flooding. And let me take this opportunity to say to developers that this administration is determined to oppose housing development in the Green Belt. We must do more to tackle we must do more to make a contribution to tackling the climate emergency. We are very conscious that some measures have already looked at, that the council have already looked at, have the potential to be very costly. We want to be certain that taxpayers' money is spent wisely. We want to ensure that climate emergency projects are based on a full business case, including a carbon saving assessment, and we have and will have undergone rigorous scrutiny. I am personally delighted that Sarah Kerr will be our executive member for climate emergency and resident services. There is no better person on this council than you to be taking on that role. Our executive member for the environment, sports, leisure will be Ian Shenton. He will continue to promote our idea to create a COVID memorial wood to help meet the council's tree planting ambitions and to commemorate those in the borough who lost their lives in the pandemic. We will use all the opportunities available to us to secure external funding for public transport and active travel initiatives, led by our new executive member for active travel, highways and transport, Paul Fishwick. Please note the emphasis on active travel. There have been much needed changes and improvements in our Children's Services Department in recent years. Only a few years ago, they were in danger of being put into special measures. We have a very experienced executive member for Children's Services in Prue Bray. She will be working to continue this improvement, and one of her priorities will be children's mental health. As I said earlier, recent government announcement of changes to the way the public pay for adult social care will mean significant changes for the borough in the next few years. I'm very pleased to have another very experienced councillor to be taking on this role. David Hare will be our executive member for wellbeing and adult services, taking on this massive challenge. The major financial challenges faced by the council necessarily mean that we will need to work hard to ensure that the council is on a firm financial footing. There are many things, low cost but high impact, that we would like to pursue. How many of them will be feasible depends on the financial legacy left to us by the previous administration. Imogen Shepherd-Dubé will be our executive member for finance, prioritising prudence and stability. Madam Mayor, our new Lib Dem administration will seek to make the council more open and more inclusive, as well as being financially sound. We have a vision of a caring, listening, responsive council, and we will happily work in partnership alongside anyone who shares that vision. Above all, we will never forget that we are here to serve the people of this borough. They have put faith in us. We are determined to show that we are worthy of that trust. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Hello. Would the leader of the opposition, Pauline Jorgensen, like to speak for 5 minutes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I get into my speech, I'd like to thank a number of people. Thanks very much to Keith and Abdul for their service as Mayor and Deputy Mayor over the last year. You've been a real credit to the borough. I would also like to thank John Halsall for his 3 years as leader of the council, guiding us through the global pandemic and the difficult economic aftermath, and for putting in such a huge amount of hours for the service of the Woking Borough residents. And also to John Kaiser for keeping a firm grip on the finances. I would like also to thank all of the officers who've worked with me and my Conservative colleagues over the years to make this one of the best places to live, work and raise a family. Congratulations to Clive on his election as leader. I'll admit it's interesting his coalition has scooped up the votes of the other parties without offering them any seats on the executive. In the interest of transparency, maybe the coalition members will tell us what they have been offered to join this coalition. The residents who put their cross next to Labour candidates in the election may also be taken aback that those same councillors have now dissolved their parties and decided to join the Lib Dems. A pity that wasn't mentioned when they were out asking for people's votes. We intend to approach opposition differently from how the Liberal Democrats did when we were in office. Given that the voters have assured that no party was elected with a majority on the council, we fully support the need to work together to tackle the challenges ahead. Where we believe the Lib Dem-led group are doing the things that are of benefit to borough residents, we will support them. But we will also hold them to account when they fail. I hope that the new coalition will look for ways to introduce more challenged council meetings, maybe dedicated questions to the council leader from the opposition leader, like PMQs. We will provide challenge where it's needed, but we'll support where we share objectives. In the past, we've worked together to press for pilot programmes on housing. The local plan needs to be addressed with urgency. Failing to get one means that we will be in the mercy of developers. Various Lib Lab coalition councillors promised on their election literature that they would protect their areas from development. As we all know, the best protection from development is a local plan. We look forward to conversations about how to progress the plan, and we would be willing to help the Liberal coalition continue the successful conversations that we've been having with government to reduce the housing numbers. The message from residents is clear. We must put aside our differences and move to work for the benefit of the borough. The Lib Dem Labour coalition has inherited an enviable legacy from 20 years of Conservative rule. Woking Borough is one of the best places in the UK and is the healthiest place to live. Sound financial management has meant that we've been able to maintain and increase services, put investment into new facilities across the borough, and develop an income stream that is funding better outcomes for residents. The coalition will benefit from new schools and sixth forms that we've secured, new leisure centres we are building and have built, and new social homes that we've delivered, along with 57 million we've set aside for building and modernising affordable social housing. We have delivered new greenways and cycleways, doubled the spending on road maintenance, and are in the middle of a programme to reduce congestion, something which I remember the Lib Dems opposed. We also provide unprecedented support for families and businesses during the pandemic and its aftermath, including millions of pounds in grants. The administration must continue our policy of backing people in need during these difficult times. I hope that the coalition will continue to build on the legacy and priorities that we put in place. And when the going gets tough, as it inevitably will for any new administration, I hope they won't fall back on the normal practice of trying to blame the excellent situation they've inherited. The exercise of power carries obligation to take responsibility. Finally, I want to thank my Conservative colleagues for electing me as their new leader. I have a fantastic team around me, and I'm looking forward to working with them over the coming year. We will provide scrutiny, we will provide challenge to the coalition, and we will make the case to residents of this great borough on why they should return a Conservative administration at the next election. Finally, I'd like to just point out, along with the normal executive members that we would normally have, or shadow executive members, we've introduced a new post, which is being held by Laura Blumenthal, which will cover levelling up, equality and social housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to item 12, changes to the Constitution. Do I have a proposer for the report? Thank you, Imogen. And do I have a seconder, Freeburn? Would the proposer like to speak? For 3 minutes?
Sure. I mean, obviously this was agreed by, well, me and the 3 Conservatives. Oh, turn the volume up, I think as well. Stand up. Right, okay. Obviously, this was agreed by the previous Constitution Review Working Group. I was a member of it. It is largely name changes to different names and areas of the council. There was nothing in, I remember it was quite a short meeting. So, yes, it wasn't a lot to discuss. So, thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody like to speak against the report? No. Okay. Yeah. Okay, would we like to go for a vote, please, for the motion, for the changes? Anybody against? Thank you. One. Carried. Thank you. Carried. Thank you. Number 13, members' question time. There are no members' question time. No members' questions. Watching too much radio. Okay, we're now on to item 14, political balance report. I would like to ask for a proposer for this report. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. And would the proposer like to speak for 3 minutes?
I won't speak for 3 minutes because we are at 10 to 9 already, and we have quite a lot of things to get through. But I would like to propose that we accept our nominations on Appendix A.
Thank you. Councillor Jorgensen?
I'm not sure where it fits, but I have got a proposed amendment to the, is that the next item? Thank you.
Okay. Do I have anybody who wishes to vote against the report? Or wants to speak against the report? Yeah. Okay, no. Yeah, can we please go straight to the vote? 4.
Voting in favour of
the voting for.
Excuse me, I wanted to speak to this item.
Sorry.
Please.
Are you speaking against the report?
Yes.
Okay. Have you got a seconder? Okay, Steve, would you like to speak now?
I didn't imagine that it was all that controversial reporting on the nominations made by the different political groups on the council, but if that is necessary, I will speak. But I would like to actually move business as rapidly as possible, so I don't want to speak for very long. But it has been the normal practice in the past for this council to accept the nominations put forward by the different political groups and then proceed on that basis. I'm not quite sure why we should be doing anything differently this evening.
Norman Jorgensen, would you wish to speak now?
Yes, please. Just very briefly, I just want to question the standing of the group, the coalition group. We've heard tonight that various parts of this council seem to call themselves separate groups. So what is the legal definition on which the coalition group is based, and what happens if and when the individual groups again claim to be individual? They have to group together to form a group to get the majority of seats on these committees. So I'd just like, please, clarification on the definition of the group that has been formed and what might happen after this meeting should that group fall apart in any way and become its disparate parts again. Thank you.
I'm going to take advice on this. Thank you. I've taken advisement and all 28 members of the agreement have signed the Wokingham Partnership and have met all legal requirements. Okay. Keith Baker, Councillor Baker.
I might be able to bring some clarity to this. Very simple question. Can you confirm that this council only has two groups, the Wokingham Partnership and the Conservative group, only two groups, and therefore the Liberal Democrat group, the Independent group and the Labour group, as far as this council is concerned, no longer exists?
Taken advisement again. I've taken advisement. The two groups for the purposes, there are two groups for the purposes of political balance. Okay.
I also asked if you could confirm that there is no such thing as a Labour group within this council, an independent group within this council, as far as the council is concerned, and the Liberal Democrat group, please.
On advisement again. Hello. For the purpose of the council, there are two political parties, but individual councillors are still members of different political groups. Thank you. I've done it the wrong way, sorry. Right, it's two political groups, but individual members are of a political, are members of individual political parties. I think I've got it right. Yes. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Right, going back to political balance, I had the proposer and the seconder. Anybody else wish to speak on this? Clive, would you like a right to reply?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I would just like to remind everybody in the council that we have formed a partnership that is for the benefit of the people of Wokingham, so that we have a stable administration. It is something that unfortunately you were not able to do, even though you tried. Might not be you, Pauline, but others did.
Thank you for the correction, Clive. I certainly did not.
I have nothing else to add.
Okay.
Madam Mayor. Thanks.
Okay, can we go to the vote for the political party report? Show of hands, please. Thank you. Anybody against? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Number 15. Agenda item 15, appointments to panel working groups. State to intend to agree the nominations for all appointments en bloc and only require separate votes on those where there is more than one nomination. Nominations will be taken in alphabetical order. Councillor Jorgensen.
I have an amendment to propose to change the makeup of the Constitution Review Working Group on the basis that the current Constitution, i.e. the current makeup, is not politically balanced. It is far too much balanced towards the ruling group.
Do you have a seconder? Thank you. Okay. So they're doing that, and then I'll ask the proposer if he's going to accept the original motion.
Amendment.
Amendment, yes. And I thought this was going to be straight sailing.
Yes, just a point of clarification. The Constitutional Review Working Group or panel is the one that suggests the proposed changes to the Constitution, which are then brought to the Council to approve. Can this Council overrule the existing Constitutional Working Board? Should this not go to them to decide if they want to increase from 4 to 5, and then that be brought back to this Council? This seems to be out of order to me.
Okay. Thank you. The full council can decide. Okay, thank you.
So may I ask a question, Mr. Manager? This is an overall scheme of proportionality as according to the report that has come out, and therefore the places have been calculated overall across the council. Is that correct? Or how does this one work?
These aren't included in these calculations. Thank you. Yes. Well, but don't I need to get Clive to accept? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Jorgensen. You'd like to speak.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I will be brief. I'd like to remind the Liberal coalition that we have only have a 2-seat majority in this council. Clive promised during his speech a spirit of cooperation and working together, and I'd like to see if this survives the first amendment to balance this committee in line with the number of councillors.
Thank you.
No, we do not, Madam Mayor. Yeah. If Councillor Jorgensen had really wanted to work in the spirit of cooperation, then she might have.
Sorry, Clive, can you speak at the end, please? Thank you. Councillor Ferris?
I was leader of the Lib Dem group last year, and the numbers were 31 to 18. This same committee that's being talked about was 3-1, so it was in balance last year, and I did raise this with officers, but got told that it was all part of the overall number and it would affect the balance across other committees, and it was refused. So we're only in the same position as where we were because it wasn't politically balanced last year. We were 3-1 and we were 31-18.
Thank you. Okay.
Could I just check the process here? I'm not quite sure why Clive would be speaking at the end of my amendment.
The proposer of the amendment doesn't have the right to reply. Would the seconder of the amendment like to speak, or would he like to speak later?
Well, I'm just amazed at the Liberal Democrats' failure to be perfectly reasonable on what appears to me just to be a simple error. 3 on your side and 1 on ours. We have got 1 seat less than half the council. Clearly, it should be 3-2 or 4-3, not 3-1. That is inequitable.
Okay. Would anybody else like to speak on the amendment? Keith Baker? Councillor Baker?
Thank you. I was noting that Anne Hunter was shaking her head, Lindsay, when you were saying about the incorporation. So they're the experts. I'll take Anne's view rather than yours. I don't know why we're wasting time on this. You know, there will be still 3-2. They will still, the coalition will still be able to vote down anything they like. It's actually giving us 1. They still have the majority. And we have heard time and time and time again tonight, and previous in the newspapers, on social media, that they wanted to reach out and work together. here is the first opportunity to do that without losing their control. They still have control and they can still get everything through they want, but they have failed.
Okay. Councillor Bray?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is one of those things that is cooked up for a bit of indignation. It was perfectly satisfactory to have 3-1 last year, and for all the time the Conservatives were in control, they never raised any issues with it at all being unbalanced when it was unbalanced before. If they want to make a case, they can bring a case to the Constitutional Review Working Group to consider. And that, you know, they have sprung this on us tonight. They have not tried to work with us or persuade us in advance, although it's possible that there has been some contact. Well, it's interesting, Pauline, because you didn't seem to think you had been, as a group, talking to the Labour or the Independents, and yet we know you have. Maybe you didn't personally. I don't know. We are spending a lot of time on something. Well, we have a lot.
Sorry.
We have a lot of things to do this evening.
Sorry, Pauline, can you sit down, please?
No. The point of personal explanation.
Oh, sorry, got a personal point of order.
Yes.
I'm afraid Pauline hasn't got a point of personal explanation because she hasn't made a speech about doing this before.
Hold on. Can I have one? Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to correct something that Prue said. I did actually ask Anne to table this with Clive to see if we've changed the constitution of this committee. It was discussed with Clive and he refused.
Okay. Fine. We can, we can carry on like this all night. You know that we are not going to vote for this. We can have a discussion about it afterwards instead of holding up this meeting for the final 20 minutes that we've got to do the absolutely essential items of business. I'm sorry that the annual council meeting is not getting off to the collaborative start that we would like. Those of us on this side, you've even questioned our right to exist as a partnership when we have obeyed every legal requirement of the council and held it up for that. I know that you are in a difficult position. You have been running the council for 20 years. It's a bit of a culture shock for you. But we are in a position now where we have a list of outside bodies to get to. We have a list of boards and things which we have to agree. We need to agree them. And I note that you have put down a large number of Conservatives, which we are going to have to vote on bit by bit, and we've got less than 20 minutes left to do it. So, let's bow to the inevitable, get through this and get on with it.
Marie G, Councillor G.
Yeah, I would just like officers to clarify whether Section 15 of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989 applies to the balance on this particular group. So the rules are not all seats are allocated to the same political group. Majority of seats are allocated to a particular political group if the number of persons belonging to that group are a majority of the authority's membership, and subject to the above, the number of seats allocated to a particular political group reflects that group's proportion of the membership of the authority, but that's only if the previous two are complied with. And then the other one is total number of seats, and you need to have nobody voting against for changing it. So I think this needs to go to the Constitution Review Working Group in its current form. But I need to know whether this Section 15 applies to this particular committee. Thank you.
Thank you. I've taken advisement. Hello, yes, it is politically balanced, and recommendation number 5 states that. Okay. And it's politically balanced for a committee of 4. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, can Clive speak? Okay. Would anybody else like to speak on this amendment? Clive now, please. Councillor Jones. Okay, Councillor Jones, you're right to reply, please.
All right, thank you very much. This is very much in line with what there was last year and for several years before that. If you wish to make a change, you can bring it to the constitutional review working group, and we will be very happy to discuss it then. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, we're ready to go to vote on the amendment. Okay, we're now voting on the amendment. For the amendment? Okay. Against the motion? Amendment. Yeah, no. That's 27, 27, so I have the cast. Okay, thank you. I have the casting votes, so I will be voting against the amendment. Thank you. The amendment now falls, so do I, yeah, good. Okay, I'd like to state that I intend to agree the nominations for the appointments en bloc and only require separate votes on those where there is more than one nomination. Thank you. Vote for the en bloc.
No, we haven't voted on the substantive. Have we voted on the political balance report? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we're beginning with voting en bloc. All those for? En bloc. Green? The green sheets.
Yeah, we got.
It's
I don't
all
understand.
the uncontested. Anybody against? Carried. Thank you.
So now I'm going to move to where we have more nominations than appointments, and we'll take separate votes where there's more than one nomination. So if I start with Appendix 2, and the first appointment is with regards to the adoption panel that requires one member, and we've got two nominations. So if I start with those in favour of David Hare. Those against? All right. Okay. All right. Voting for Jackie Rance. 27 each.
Okay, I have the casting vote. I vote for David Hare.
Next is for the fostering panel. Those in favour of David Hare. Those in favour of Jackie Rance. The David Hare is appointed. We move on to the schools. Hello, I'd like to ask a question. 2 votes ago, I thought we voted for all the uncontested positions on block, and I thought we were told that they were all the green sheets, but now we're voting on the green sheet. So what was it that we actually voted for?
The contested votes.
Oh, right.
Okay.
And so some of those are on the green sheets, because I thought it was said that the green sheets were the uncontested ones. Okay, so I didn't understand that. Okay, thank you. So we've moved to the schools forum, and if I go with Graham Howe, those in favour of Graham Howe. Those are in favour of Morag Malvern. Morag Malvern is appointed. Secure accommodation panel.
I abstained on the last one.
It's fine, that's fine, still the same outcome. So in terms of secure accommodation panel, the first nomination, Prue Bray. And Bill Soane. So, yeah, any abstentions? So Prue Bray is appointed. So if I move on to Thames Valley Police and Crime Group, Maria G. And Gregor Murray. No, any abstentions? Right, Mayor has casting vote.
My casting vote is with Maria, Councillor G.
Maria G is appointed. If I move on to substitutes, Chris Johnson. Pauline Jorgensen. Any abstentions? Mayor has casting vote.
I'll vote for Councillor Chris Johnson.
Appointed Chris Johnson. Wokingham Learning Disability Partnership Board, David Hare. Jackie Vance. Any abstentions? David Hare appointed. Excuse me.
I'd like agreement to extend the meeting past 9:30. Okay, it seems likely that all the appointments won't be made by 9:30. Sorry. Oh, sorry. In accordance with Rule 4.2.1311, it is proposed to suspend Rule 4.2.8 in order to allow the meeting to be extended by possibly an extra 30 minutes. This will depend on where we are on the agenda. This proposal needs a vote on. Thank you. Okay, all voting on in favour. Against? Carried. Carried.
So if we move to the age concern, Twyford and District, Sam Akhtar.
Oh. Sorry, we're all right now, but we've got some really new items.
Okay, thank you. So I've moved on to Appendix 3, just to be clear. So that's age concern, Twyford and District, and taking nominations or votes for Sam Akhtar. For Lindsay Ferris. Abstentions? Lindsay Ferris appointed. Atomic Weapons Research Establishment, Chris Johnson, taking votes for Chris Johnson. For Wayne Smith. Okay, the Mayor has cast in vote.
I vote for Councillor Chris Johnson.
Chris Johnson appointed. Berkshire Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust, John Kaiser. Tahir Maher. Tahir Maher appointed. Berkshire Museum of Aviation, Andy Croy. And Bill Soane. Any abstentions? Andy Croy appointed. Berkshire Pension Fund Advisory Panel, Maria G. Stuart Munro. Maria G appointed. Citizens Advice Wokingham, Rachel Bishop Firth. Laura Blumenthal. Mayor has the casting vote.
I vote for Rachel Bishop Firth.
Rachel Bishop Firth appointed. Finchampstead Baptist Church Advisory Board, David Cornish. Rebecca Moggetts. Abstentions? David Cornish appointed. Ready Bus Management Committee, Jackie Rance. Mike Smith. The Mayor has the casting vote.
I vote for Councillor Mike Smith.
Mike Smith appointed. Royal Berkshire Hospital Foundation Trust, Board of Governors, Phil Cunnington. Adrian Mather. Adrian Mather appointed. South East Employers need 2 members, and if I start with David Cornish. Clive Jones. Stuart Monroe. Okay, yeah. Okay, so Clive Jones has been elected as the first member, and then we have a casting vote between David Cornish and Stuart Monroe.
I vote for Councillor David Cornish.
The next is with regards to the 2 substitutes. If I go with John Kaiser. With Ian Shenton. And Imogen Shepherd-Debay. So Imogen Shepherd-Debay has been elected as the 1 substitute, and we have 27 each for Ian Shenton and John Kaiser, so the Mayor has the casting vote.
I vote for Councillor Ian Shenton.
If I move on to South East Reserve Forces and Cadets, Andy Croy. Peter Harper. Andy Croy is elected. I'll move on to the next page, which is a standing conference on archives, Stephen Conway. Pauline Jorgensen. Any abstentions? Stephen Conway elected. Thames Basin Heaths Joint Strategic Partnership, David Cornish. Rebecca Margetts. Any abstentions? David Cornish elected. The substitute for Thames Basin Heaths, David Davis. Ian Shenton. That's tie the casting vote for the Mayor.
I vote for Councillor Ian Shenton.
The Piggott Trust, Lindsay Ferris. Graham Howe. Any abstentions? Lindsay Ferris is elected. The Polehampton Charity, Stephen Conway. Wayne Smith. Mayor has the casting vote.
I vote for Councillor Stephen Conway.
Stephen Conway elected. Working Borough Sports Council, Michael Firmager. Ian Shenton. Any abstentions? Ian Shenton elected. Working Borough Sports Sponsorship Fund, Gregor Murray. Ian Shenton. Mayor has the casting vote.
I vote for Councillor Ian Shenton.
Working Job Support Centre Management Committee, Andy Croy. And Stuart Monroe. Any abstentions? The Andy Croy is elected. Working and Waterside Centre, Harry Bath. Shirley Boyd. Any abstentions? Shirley Boyd appointed. Working and Youth Counselling and Information Service, Phil Cunnington. Rochelle Shepherd-Debay. Any abstentions? Rochelle Shepherd-Debay appointed. Woodley Town Centre Management Initiative, Shirley Boyd. Anne Chadwick. Andy Croy. And Bill Soane. And Shirley Boyd and Andy Croy are appointed. Woodley Volunteer Centre, Beth Rowland. And Bill Soane. Mayor has the casting vote.
I vote for Councillor Beth. I vote for Councillor Beth Rowland.
Yes. So then it's now voting for the rest of these.
Okay. The rest of them we are voting en bloc because they're not contested. Go to the vote. Okay, you'd like to vote? For, voting for. Uncontested en bloc. On the yellow sheets. Okay, anyone against? Carried. Carried. Thank you. That's it now. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And I'm now announcing the end of the meeting, and thank you for being very patient with me. Thank you. I know. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be out with you. Yeah. Well, I pick my papers up in a minute. If I drank, I'd go and drink and find the gym. Thank you very much for all your patience.